the processes. Today we're talking about discover the power of apps for small businesses. The Intuit App Center, or apps.com, is what we'll be talking about today. My name is Michelle Long. I am a CPA and the owner of Long for Success. I'm the author of several different books. You can check those out on Amazon if you're interested. Co-host of the award-winning Ultimate Accounting Decon. It's a 2-day virtual conference for accountants and bookkeepers. I'd love to have you join me for that. We've got it coming up this July. My LinkedIn group is a great resource when you have questions. There's about 65,000 members now. I'd encourage you to join that. And I'm also thrilled to say, I started teaching QuickBooks back in 1999. And I became a trainer for Intuit in the year 2007. But over the last year, I'm thrilled to say that now I'm an international trainer for Intuit. Not only have I had the privilege of going across the U.S., but also cities all across Canada, which is a beautiful country up there. And I've also had the privilege of going to Australia and London, teaching other accountants and bookkeepers about QuickBooks Online. So I'm really glad to have you here with me today. I'd encourage you to subscribe to my blog so you learn about other upcoming webinars, as well as my YouTube channel. That's where I'll post the recordings from this webinar and the other APPify the Processes webinars. Cindy, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Cindy Lee. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Intuit, and my job is to encourage more QuickBooks users to use applications that work with QuickBooks, and not just the Intuit applications, but those applications like third-party, because that's going to save them more time and it's going to make their QuickBooks experience a lot happier. And prior to this current role, I worked at Intuit's Accounting Professional Division, so I have a lot of affinity for accounting professionals. And prior to Intuit, I worked in a variety of consumer products. So I have a career in marketing, but I had the opportunity to do a rotation in operations in the Lean Six Sigma discipline, which I had the opportunity to take initiatives on improving processes, including cutting the time to go to market for new products, as well as decreasing inventory for large companies. So I have a lot of passion for efficiency because I was able to cut time every step in the way during my rotation there. So when I hear businesses tell me how they could use some help with improving their efficiency in their back office, I totally relate. So I'm very excited in the role that I am in because I feel that I am helping people improve their processes. Back to Michelle.
Good. That's great, Cindy. And yeah, that's what we're talking about today, is helping these small businesses improve their processes. And that's where all these apps now really make it easier for small businesses to do some of that. We're covering a lot of these apps in the APPify the Processes webinar series. I want to thank our gold sponsors, Intuit, ScanWriter, TSheets, Concur, Bill.com, and Avalara. We've got a webinar for each one of them so you can see how their app can help improve the processes for the small businesses. Also today, we're going to randomly select some prizes from people who are attending today, which, by the way, I'll talk about the prizes while you guys answer this poll question. I'd like to know now, who do we have listening to us? So what describes you? Are you an accountant, a bookkeeper, a member of the Pro Advisor program? Are you certified? Or are you a small business owner or a student or not an accounting professional? So if you could answer that, the prizes that we have today, somebody that's attending live on this call will win QuickBooks Accountant 2013. Somebody else will win an autographed copy of either, I'll let you choose, either my QuickBooks Practice Set or the QuickBooks Online Practice Set. And then somebody who's attended all 6 of these webinars will be eligible to win QuickBooks Enterprise. We're going to be giving one of those away, QuickBooks Enterprise 13. That has a retail value of $3,000. So you could win some great prizes. So go ahead and answer the poll questions for me. And we've got about 76%, 77%. If you want to answer that, go ahead and answer it quickly. So I would appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Mike. Mike says, love and have really enjoyed your 3 books, Michelle. You know what, Mike? Now I'm up to 5 books. QuickBooks 2014 On Demand has come out. I just got my copies of it yesterday. So I've got 5 of them now. So that's kind of cool. All right, let me go ahead and close this poll, and I'll share those results with you. You can see we got a pretty good mix here. We've got about 39% accountants. We've got 44% bookkeepers. 39% are members of the Pro Advisor program, and 43% are certified. And then we do have about 20% small business owners or students. Well, very good. We got a good mixture on here today. All right, thank you for answering that. I appreciate that. And again, we'll draw for the prizes after the webinar today. And if you want, I'll send you an email. So watch for your email and respond because I'll need your address, especially if you win the book. Okay, what we're talking about in this webinar is we're going to go over an intro and the benefit of apps. You know, what's important about these apps, things like that. We'll talk about determining the needs of the client because that's what it's all about. What does your client need? Then we'll discuss steps to APPify the processes for these small business clients. And then Cindy's going to give you an overview of apps.com. She's going to talk about how Intuit reviews and approves those apps, as well as some discounts for pro advisors. And then at the end, I'll remind you about some webinars that are coming up on specific apps to where you can learn more details about them. So first of all, let's make sure we all understand what we're talking about when we're talking about an app. An app is either a mobile or web-based application. So it's on your phone, or web-based means you're logging in from a browser. And we're talking specifically about apps that are integrating with QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. So that's what we're focusing on. The benefits of having all these apps is it allows you to streamline the processes. As Cindy mentioned earlier, businesses need to improve their efficiencies and their productivity by streamlining the processes. We want to be able to enter the data once and have it update QuickBooks automatically. We don't want to have double entry because then you have errors and it's inefficient. Plus, the nice thing about these apps is it can update QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online automatically without exposing your information. So in other words, if you have somebody, let's say they're entering their time data, they don't have to see all the payroll information. They can just enter the time. So it protects some of that information. Also, you can import it into QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online only when necessary. You don't have to have it syncing every hour. You can indicate when you want that to sync, and then you also can manage these apps from anywhere. You've got access from your mobile device, from tablets, or a web space, where you're logging in from a laptop or something. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about apps. Cindy, would you like to add a little bit more here?
Yes. So I kind of listed a few bullet points on why third-party applications are important. So I've kind of listed for your customers, which means small businesses, and for you, for those accounting professionals. So for small businesses, the third-party applications are important because it allows them to customize the QuickBooks experience. So QuickBooks, in most part for small businesses, is just a small portion of what they do. So they have a small business to run, and they have many other specific needs, and that's where applications, the apps, can come in to customize that QuickBooks experience. It allows them to save time because they don't have to enter data twice. Once they work in one system and then that works with QuickBooks, they only have to enter the data once. And for the accounting professionals, the third-party applications are important because you may have customers who want to be in the cloud, and third-party apps are already in the cloud, and QuickBooks Online is also in the cloud, and they work seamlessly together, even better than desktop. And if you have happier customers, hopefully you get a better conversion and retention and a better customer service and just happier customers.
Very good. Thank you, Cindy. I couldn't agree more. So now let's talk about the 5 steps to APPifying the processes. So what we're talking about here is you've got a small business or your own practice if you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, but you're identifying what the needs are first. So the first step is to perform a needs assessment, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. And then we need to prioritize and plan. They may have several different areas where they need a third-party app or they want to implement something to help them streamline their processes. So perform a needs assessment and then prioritize and plan would kind of be the first couple of steps. Then we'll talk about identifying, testing, and evaluating the apps that are available. You want to figure out which one is right for them. Then we work on implementing and setting it up and training. And this is where, as accounting professionals, this whole APPify the processes is an additional service that we can provide to our clients. We can charge them for this. It's additional value added. So we can help them with implementing it, setting it up, training it, and then also monitor and support. This is an ongoing process. And then as their business grows, you may need to do a needs assessment again next year because hopefully their business is continuing to grow, and as they grow, they have different needs, and you may be implementing something every year that's going to help their business. So APPify the processes is something you can do with your clients, and we're helping them streamline their business operations to find these third-party apps that will help meet their needs and help improve their productivity and efficiency, reduce the double entry, reduce errors, and it just really is a win-win all the way around. It's a win for our clients because we help them have their business be more efficient and more profitable, and it's a win for us because we can provide additional services to help grow our practice as well. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about APPify the processes. So one of the first things that we talked about you need to do is a needs assessment. First of all, you need to talk about who's going to do the work. Are you, the accountant and bookkeeper, entering everything and the client just needs to see reports? Is the client going to enter the invoices and receive payments, and you're going to be doing the bills and the expenses and stuff and reconciling the bank accounts? Who's going to do the work? How's it going to be split up? Also then, what needs to be done? What are the details that need to be done? Do they need to enter estimates? Are they going to be in the field when they're doing that? So what needs to be done? Also, when does it need to be done? This is where the when comes into play. If you've got the client able to enter some things while you're doing things as well, they're more up to date. You're not behind. You're not a month or 6 months behind on getting the data in there. They can do it from their own phone or tablet or computer, and it's all syncing with the same file, so that helps tremendously. Where it's going to be done and where it will be stored. This is where, like I said, they can enter things from their device, wherever they're at, and when the data is stored in the cloud, that allows it to sync together. Whether you're syncing to the desktop or whether you're syncing to QBO, it's stored where you guys can both access it, especially with QBO. The app itself, a lot of these apps are cloud-based apps. So I recommend using them with QBO, but a lot of these apps do integrate with QuickBooks Desktop as well. We'll talk about, too, why does it need to be done? This is where you need to talk to the client about what are their pain points. How are they operating today? What are they doing? Where are their pains? Where are things inefficient? And why did we need to implement this to help improve those efficiency and eliminate those pain points? And then again, we talked about, like, how is the data going to be shared? That's where with QBO, they have access to all the reports and everything, whereas with the desktop, they might be using an app to enter some things, and it's syncing with the desktop, but then they don't have full access unless you have the desktop hosted. So those are a few key considerations just to get you started. And then we were just talking about the differences in the access here. I want to go a little bit more in depth on this one because it's important to think about this before you start implementing stuff. Do they want the desktop only, or do they want to take the desktop version? Let's take QuickBooks Pro or Premier and have it hosted where we can log into the cloud and we can share that data and everybody can have access to create the reports that they need and things like that. Or do we want a cloud-based system like QuickBooks Online? It's a SaaS-based system. You log in from a browser. So you can log in from your PC. The client can log in from their Mac. And so everybody can access that in the cloud. Or also consider the mobile access and what needs do we have to enter from our phone or our tablet, things like that. So for example, there's two different mobile apps. You've got the QuickBooks for Windows mobile companion. So if you're using the desktop version or having the desktop hosted, you might be able to use QuickBooks for Windows mobile companion. Now, it doesn't work with Mac. No apps work with Mac because there's not an SDK or an IPP. There's not a way for the integration when you're working with a Mac. So the apps won't integrate with QuickBooks for Mac. So just want to make that clear. But then also with QuickBooks Online, you have an app for that as well, to where they can enter an invoice or an estimate on their phone. So there's apps on both of these that will integrate with the desktop version. Now, what you can do from those apps is more limited than when you're in the full product. Also then consider the users and what are their locations. If you've got people in multiple locations, you really need to have something in the cloud, whether it's a desktop hosted or QBO, where people can access it and get into that data. Also consider what is it they need to do. Do they need to enter transactions? What kind of transactions? Do they just need to view reports? There's several different considerations. So make a list. Start writing these things down and analyzing who needs to do what, where do they need to do it from, what type of transactions do they need to do, and go through and assess the needs. You also can go through on analyzing the business on a function, each function of the business. So for example, in the middle there we have the accounting system. Perhaps you're using QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. You've got your accounting system in the middle, and we want these apps that are going to integrate and help us get the data into the accounting system in a streamlined fashion so we're not doing multiple data entry. So for example, of course, Intuit has the accounting system with QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online. Then we have ScanWriter up there on the admin and IT aspect, where we're talking about document management and things like that. ScanWriter helps you get the bank statements, if you can't download them, helps you get the bank statements and import them all into QuickBooks. Or ScanWriter can help you to take invoices or bills that you got from your suppliers, scan them, get them posted into the accounting system in a matter of minutes versus hours for entering the data. So ScanWriter is a great application to help you get data into that accounting system really quickly and efficiently. We already did the webinar on that, and you can watch it on my YouTube channel. We posted it out there. Then when it comes to HR, you might have employees that need to enter their time out in the field. So that's where an app like TSheets is really great. People can enter their time in the field. Do you need people to do job costing? Do you need to enter the time and allocate it to jobs? So there's apps when it comes to HR and payroll and timekeeping. We've got a webinar coming up on TSheets as well. Then also, when we get down to the financial aspect, there's apps that help with reporting and key performance indicators. And there's also a wonderful app called Avalara. It's called Avatax from Avalara. It helps with the sales taxes. It's really amazing how complex these sales taxes are. I've got a webinar coming up on Avalara, so you can learn more about that one as well. Then when we're talking about purchases and payables, does that client have lots of bills that they need to get entered? Do they need to have an approval process where you've got the bills entered, but now you need somebody or two people to review and approve that bill before it gets paid? This is a great situation where Bill.com is fabulous. The webinar for Bill.com is coming up on Thursday. I'd encourage you to join me for that. Then also, you might be talking about operations. When we're talking about inventory and job costing, there are some apps available for that that will integrate with both the desktop and QuickBooks Online. Maybe you've got a lot of travel expenses and you've got a lot of that you need to get entered. That's where Concur can help streamline those expenses and get those into the accounting system. And again, we've got an app or a webinar coming up on Concur as well. Then also, when it comes to marketing or sales and receivables, what do they need in the way of point of sale or e-commerce? How are they doing their invoicing and their payments? Maybe they need a CRM app, customer relationship management. There's an app for that as well. So what you want to do is sit down and talk with the client about all of these different functions of their business, all the different ways their business operates. Talk to them about that. Find out what's currently inefficient, what's not working well, where are they doing double data entry, where are their pain points. And that's where you want to look for an app that can help meet those needs and help streamline the processes and help them eliminate those inefficiencies and stuff. Cindy, would you like to talk a little bit more about the small business life cycle?
Yes. Another way to assess business needs based on what Michelle just presented is to look at the small business life cycle based on the stage in which the customer is in. So, for example, I just mentioned that QuickBooks for many businesses is probably not their center of the universe, but it's a small portion of what they do. So for new businesses or those companies seeking to grow, acquiring customers, number one, customer acquisition is very important. That's where CRM applications come in, such as Salesforce and Method CRM. CRM applications allow sales teams to access customer information without having to access all the financial information in QuickBooks. And you don't want to keep a customer list on QuickBooks, another list in the CRM. So if they integrate, you can have the most up-to-date customer information and customer list without having to type it twice. Once you acquire customers, there's business to manage, and that's where number two, project management applications come in, such as MavenLink. as well as Builder Trend, which is for construction specifically. And the number 3, for those product-based companies, they have inventory to manage. And historically, people lean towards QuickBooks Desktop because they have a more robust inventory system. However, if you use QuickBooks Online along with SOS Inventory, it's actually at parity in terms of inventory functionality compared to a QuickBooks Desktop. There are also other inventory software such as Lettuce, which is more specialized for e-commerce. And number 4, tracking time and expenses is really good for service-based companies who either have to track hours of employees for payroll or they have to track their own billable hours. Number 5, paying bills. Michelle already covered Bill.com. It's great for a workflow process for different people who manage the bill, like somebody entering the bill, somebody that goes to another person for approval, that goes to another person for paying, and all that is integrated with QuickBooks. Number 6, getting paid. Accounts receivable is very important. Everybody needs to get paid. There are applications there that are more self-service, such as FG receivables. There's also outsourced account receivables that help people follow up with invoices such as Zencash. And there's even Fundbox that basically where businesses can get advances on their unpaid invoices. And last but not least, number 7, there are also applications there for sales taxes such as Avalara that complements really well with QuickBooks.
Very good. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, there's a ton of apps out at apps.com, and we're going to be talking about all of those, and Cindy's going to give us a demo in just a minute. I wanted to do another quick poll question here. Let me know, have you moved to the cloud for your own business? What are you doing with respect to the cloud? No, and I don't plan on it. Not yet, but I want to. Maybe you're using some cloud-based apps that are related to your business operations. Maybe you're using QuickBooks in the cloud. You have it hosted, or you're using QuickBooks Online. Or are you 100% virtual already? Let us know where you're at with your own business. I think people like to see kind of where they are compared to their peers and to others. So let me know where you're at there. Very good. And also, if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the question box, and we'll get to those and answer those questions verbally in just a few minutes. So very good. We've got about 81% voted. If you want to vote in this poll, please do it quickly. All right. Got a few more people that are still voting. If you want to vote, please vote now. All right. And the numbers have stopped moving, so I'm going to go ahead and close that, and I'll share that with you. So that's interesting. We've got a few people that don't know, and I don't plan on it. We've got about 35%, not yet, but I want to. Hopefully you'll learn more today and be able to start moving that way. And then we've got about 39% that are using some QuickBooks applications in the cloud. 21% have QuickBooks hosted or QuickBooks Online, and we have 12% that are 100% virtual. Good for you. Boy, it feels great when you can operate your office totally from anywhere and you don't have paper and all that. So that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing those results. All right, so let's go ahead and talk more now. We're going to be talking about step number 3. So we talked about the needs of the client, and we prioritized and planned which ones do we want to focus on and which ones do we want to work on implementing with them first. Now it comes a step where we have to identify these apps, test the apps, and evaluate them. Our reputation is staked on this, so we need to make sure that we're representing and recommending good apps and things like that for our clients. So this is where the App Center, or apps.com, this is where Intuit helps us out tremendously. And so I wanted Cindy to share with us some of this on this section. Cindy, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pass control to you, Cindy. So
okay.
Give us just 1 second here as we pass the ball over to Cindy. All right. Cindy, I think you should be able to take it now.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
All right. Yes,
perfect.
I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So now you are in the identifying, evaluating app. Basically, you're in the research phase of apps to recommend to clients. So the best place to go is to go to the intuit.apps.com. Literally, in your browser, you can just type apps.com, and it will take you to this page. So what I have up here is that we've just recently migrated website. So on the left-hand side, you'll see our old App Center, and on the right-hand side, you'll see our new app.com. So what we did recently is that we heard from small businesses that on the old App Center, they were shown a long list of apps, and it wasn't as helpful sometimes to find the right app. So what we did was we took the feedback and we launched this new website on the right-hand side. And the idea is to give customers a more curated experience, more content. They wanted more help and more content to help navigate and to find the right app. And then in a couple of slides, I'll kind of actually go into the site and navigate. But first, what I wanted to show you is how apps get listed on apps.com. Because QuickBooks is now an open platform, which means anyone can develop an application that works with QuickBooks. And we don't even charge for that. Intuit does not charge for that for integrating with QuickBooks Online, and it only charges a nominal fee for integrating with QuickBooks Desktop. So anybody can develop an app. However, in order to be listed on apps.com, we actually go through 3 rounds of reviews before they can be marketed on apps.com. The first round is what we call a technical review, where we check for the quality of the app and that all the signing and all the integration work seamlessly. Then we go through a second round, what we call the security review, to make sure that all the data is very secure, and we test it with the data back and forth, and we have a third party audit that security. And the third round is what we call a marketing review, where we make sure that what the developer says the app does, it indeed does that. So we'll watch the demo and watch the description to make sure that they match. And we will also make sure that the communication is clear about who it is it's good for and what industries. Only after that, those rounds of reviews, which could take months, we post them on apps.com. And then once it's live on apps.com, it's also up to the community to review the app. So we have a panel of 10 pro advisors who are more or less dedicated by industry, and we have them write a review. We have them not just write all the positive, but the pros and cons of the app, based on their experience and who would they recommend to. And then beyond that, there's also the community of users who will go and review. And based on the quality of review as well as the quantity of review, the app will be more prominent or less prominent on apps.com. And now what I'll do is actually go to the actual apps.com website, and then we can navigate to kind of see, hey, now you're in the research phase. What's the best way to navigate? So here's apps.com. When you land here, you don't see any app yet. So you see some content, right? So that if you're coming here for the first time, what I suggest you do is to actually look at the content. So here we have 2 blog articles written by professionals. One is just basic, what are QuickBooks apps, to get grounded. And then here on the right-hand side, we'll rotate different articles to help people choose the app. So in this case, this month, we're featuring this article that are for CRM apps written by Hector Garcia. You can also go under all articles. One of the great things is if you're doing research and you have an idea of the functionality of the app you want to do, you can go to the all article and say, let's say if you're looking for 3RM, right? So we have the article that compares 3 ways to manage your customers. If you look into that, you'll see that Hector compares, he did a ton of research, and he compares Method CRM with Intuit Demand Force with Batchbook CRM. So he spent a lot of time comparing and contrasting, and he's not saying that one app is better than another, but they just fit different customers based on their needs. And he kind of was very specific, giving examples about, when this customer has this need, this is the app versus that one. And we go on with, we have about 4 different articles right now that compares different categories. There's one for inventory. So if you have clients on QuickBooks Online and who have inventory needs, Tim Grant, who is the expert on inventory, he also spent time researching the different apps. So in this example, in the article, he wrote about Exact Online, who it is good for. He wrote about Lettuce, and then SOS Inventory. So Tim Grant is actually certified in several of the inventory applications that he spends a lot of time kind of comparing the pros and cons of each for different needs. I'm not going to go through all the articles, but that was just an example of articles that compare and contrast. There's also one for time tracking, and there's also one for productivity, and one for accounts receivable. So it's great that pro advisors before you have done the research and they spend hours researching. So definitely take advantage of that content. So once you've kind of done your research, you kind of narrow down into like, okay, I kind of am down to these one or two apps, where do you go? So one place to go is you can search by category. So we pre-populated some of the most popular categories up here. We also have underneath by product. You can also look at apps by product. So for example, here we have apps that work with QuickBooks Online, and they're all ranked based on the number of reviews as well as the number of stars. You can also look at apps that work with QuickBooks Desktop. So here we have a listing of all the apps that work with desktop. You can also look at the ones that have been launched over the last 3 to 6 months. You can also drop on and look at apps by Intuit. Not a ton, but there's definitely several ones there. And you could also look at just listed by popularity based on number of stars and ranking. So let's say it's, if you already decided, hey, I read the articles, I kind of have an idea of what I want. So for example, if you, let's say we can also search by field service. For example, I'm just going to look at what pops up here. If I kind of have an idea my customer needs field service. Okay, here we have 3 apps that are field service. And let's say, hey, I learned about Jobber, but I want to learn a little bit more. So you can click onto the Jobber. It gives you a page that is dedicated to Jobber, and there's a ton of great information here. To begin with, you can look at how many reviews and how many stars it got. You can also watch a demo. So all the apps have a demo here. There's also the pricing details here. And you can also see what it works with. Here it would say it works with QuickBooks Online and works with QuickBooks for PC. Okay? If you scroll down, there's screenshots. There's more descriptions about the app, what it's good for, and then you can also look at all the reviews. And like I mentioned earlier, in this case, there's a pro advisor, Stacy, who wrote a review about this app. And so as you can see, all of our apps have a free trial period. So it's great that before committing to any app, the customer can take it on a test drive without having to even putting their credit card information. But for pro advisors, if you want to take any trial, instead of clicking on this trial, I recommend that you go to that pro advisor website. So for those pro advisors, we have what we call a special offer. So I'm just going to kind of go over to the ProAdvisor website. So if you're a ProAdvisor and you log into your ProAdvisor account, under My ProAdvisor dashboard, you can find software and discounts, and you can find special offer on apps. So if you click on that, you'll land here. You'll see that we have about 15 apps in which we offer a special discount for ProAdvisors. And the discount may include a free year of trial, or it may even include discounts that you can keep for yourself or pass on to the clients. So for pro advisors, I definitely recommend that you come back here. Once you narrow down into the apps that you want to try, definitely come back to the pro advisor website. Another way to discover apps is definitely inside product, whether it's desktop or QuickBooks Online. You can find an app tab here. So what I have up here is the new QuickBooks Online, and then you can see that there's an apps tab down here. When you click on that apps tab, you see that we also have all these apps that work with QuickBooks Online. And if you click through to any of them, the easy thing is that you don't have to sign in again to the app. It basically takes your QuickBooks information, and then all you have to do is authorize the connection. So it's a very easy sign-in. So back to the intuitapps.com, the only one last thing I want to show is if you're just looking for apps and you're browsing, there's one more place you can go, which is all apps. That's where we do give you the wall of apps if you choose to look at that. And again, you can search here, apps by Intuit, free, mobile, work with QuickBooks, and we have every single app listed here by category. Okay, and I hope that helps you navigate apps better, and I'm open to answering any questions towards the end. Thank you. Back to Michelle.
Thank you, Cindy. How many apps are there now?
There are about 70 that work with QBO and another 70 that work with QuickBooks Desktop.
Wow. They just keep adding more and more apps every week, don't they?
Right. So one thing I do want to point out is that some of you may be familiar with the marketplace, which has, I don't know, hundreds of apps, right? So those apps still work with QuickBooks. It's just that they have not been vetted by Intuit the way I explained. In order to be on this new apps.com website, they have to have gone through 3 rounds of review. So that's why we're up to 70 now. But then the number keeps adding. Every week we're pushing on new apps. So make sure you come back to the site and check on, the new drop-down to see if there's anything new that interests you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If you could go ahead and pass the ball back to me then, or the presenter thing, because like she said, there's a ton of apps out there, and they keep getting more apps every week. Not only do you keep getting more apps every single week, but even though there may not be an app for what your client needs right now, they may have an app for that, next week or next month. So you really kind of have to pay attention and monitor the apps, and they have that section where you can see new apps and keep watching it. The other thing to remember, these apps are always updated. Like some of them, like I know QBO is updating every month, but I think a lot of these apps, they're updating throughout the year as well. So whatever, whatever the app was 6 months ago, it's probably been improved since then. So when you're looking at those reviews, like she mentioned, you can see reviews from people in there, make sure that you're looking at some of the more recent reviews and giving them more weight. Because if you're looking at a review from last year and somebody's complaining about something that doesn't work quite right, it may have been fixed in an update by now. So try to pay attention to the more recent apps. Also, many of those apps offer a free trial period so that you can download it and test it out with your client. You can work with it for a couple of weeks or a month to see how it's going to work for you and how it's going to meet your needs and stuff. So we had a couple of questions here. Somebody says, do pro-advisors receive any revenue or commissions for selling apps to clients? Jerry, a lot of these apps offer partner programs, and I don't think you necessarily have to be a pro-advisor. They're looking for accountants and bookkeepers, and you can sign up for that partner program, and they will offer you discounts or commissions as well as support you with training and things like that. And that's one of the things that we're discussing in all of the APPFI webinar series that we have coming up. So I would encourage you, whichever one you're interested in, go check and see what they offer for their partner program. And then here's some. Are there videos or quick tutorials on how to get up to speed quickly? Yes, we're on an overview of all apps right here. And in each one of those, like Cindy showed you, if you go into that app and click, there's places where you can learn more. There's videos for those. The webinars that I'm doing on APPFI My Processes, we're going to be talking about some key apps that I think are great, so you could join me for that webinar. Okay, another one here. What is an accountant identifies in an app? Is there a way to let Intuit know about it? What is an accountant identifies in an app? Do you mean that what if you identify an app that's not in apps.com? You could send an email to Intuit so that they could consider it, but I think usually the developers contact them because the developers have to work to Intuit. So you might want to reach out to that developer and ask them, hey, have you tried to get into apps.com? Okay, if you have more questions, go ahead and type those questions in that question box. We have plenty of time for questions. But what we want to talk about next is the next step. So first we talked about doing a needs assessment, prioritizing and planning. We talked about identifying, testing, and evaluating those apps, looking at all those like 70 apps that are available and identifying which ones might meet the needs of your client, going through, looking at some of those articles that she talked about where they compare like 3 different apps in a certain category, like maybe with inventory or with e-commerce or with time tracking, looking at those comparisons to see, because some of the apps might exceed in a certain area Other apps might have a specialization in a different area. So go in, identify and test them out, and sign up for the trial period so you can do a test period of that. And you can do that. You can test it with its QuickBooks desktop version. You can make a copy of that desktop file, and you have one that then you use for testing. If you're using QuickBooks Online, you could use the sample company. You could create your own sample company by setting up a free trial and go through and do some testing to see if these things are going to work for your client. Then the next step is, okay, we've identified the app that we want. Now we need to work on implementation with our clients. We need to do the setup and the training. And this, again, this is where you can charge your client a fee for all of these steps, for the whole APPify the Processes series. And one of the great things is, let's say you decide you want to learn all about T-Sheets, or you want to learn all about Bill.com. You can then really dig deep and really know that app very well, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time getting the training and stuff that you need. You're already up to speed on it. So it makes you more efficient with the implementation and setting up the training with your client. So what you want to do, though, is obviously you help the client get it set up, get the integration working, and then do some training with them on how to properly enter things, how it comes through into QuickBooks and things like that. Then monitoring and supporting. You know, your client may have questions for you as they go along. 2 or 3 weeks into using it, they might have some questions. They may need some more support. They may need additional training, and keeping an eye on how things are going with them. And then you start this process all over. This is a recurring system here. All right, so after you get one app implemented, give them 3 months or something, then you may need to go through and do another app that you identified to meet their needs. So this is an ongoing process. And one of the other things, I mentioned the partner programs that a lot of these apps have. A lot of the apps will include training and support for you. So they will provide training to help you to learn more about Bill.com and how it works. Support when you have a problem or you have questions, you can contact them, and they provide support as well. So they're there to support you in using and training and implementing these apps. So I really encourage you to check out some of those and join me for some of those upcoming webinars. What other questions do we have here? Let's see. We had a question, please show the way to view the ProAdvisor discounts again. Okay, so I've got that pulled up on mine here. If I go, I've already logged in to my ProAdvisor account under My ProAdvisor. So you hover on My ProAdvisor. Over here under Software and Discounts, you click on Special Offers on Apps. Special Offers on Apps. And a lot of these apps, too, if you sign up, so if you're not a ProAdvisor, if you go sign up for the partner program for a lot of these apps, a lot of them will offer you the app for free or some discounts or things like that. So if you're not a ProAdvisor, go check on those individual apps and their partner programs or their advisor programs as well. All right, great questions. Let's see what we have here. Isn't APPifying the process a bit like setting existing processes in concrete? Isn't there a case for a business to think of what they need to do differently before they start? Yes, Keith, that's the whole part of the needs assessment. What do we need to do differently? So what we want to do is in this needs assessment, we need to be talking to them about how are they operating now? Where are their inefficiencies? Where could they do things differently? And that's where earlier I talked about analyzing, their HR things, their inventory and operations aspect, looking at their payables and purchases processes, looking at the other things, looking at the different functions of their business to identify how are they operating currently, where are the pain points, where could we streamline and do better. So yes, the very first step is a needs assessment where you want to identify what their needs are, what we can do to improve their processes. Yeah, that is the very first step there. So very good. Okay.
Can I add some color? Do you mind if I add some colors to that question?
Please.
So in many instances, small businesses are using Excel spreadsheets for some things. For example, I heard a small business was doing spreadsheets to enter hours. So it's an HR consulting firm that has multiple consultants out in the field, and they're filling out their billable hours in the Excel spreadsheet, and then the manager would manually enter those hours into QuickBooks to do to do invoices and to do payroll. So you can see if you're an accounting professional observing that process, you're like, oh my gosh, you're entering manually. Did you know there's actually apps you can use where your employees can actually enter them electronically, so all the information flows seamlessly into QuickBooks and it's ready for payroll and invoicing. So if you're hearing cases where they're using something, they're using Excel spreadsheet, there's errors and there's manual entry, that's when you can say, okay, there's got to be a better solution for that. Okay? Thank you.
Yes, very good ad there, Cindy. You're so right. And that's where, in the past, these large companies had the technology to streamline their processes and automate things and make things work more efficiently. And now with the changes in technology and with the cloud and with all these apps, now small businesses can use this kind of technology to help streamline their processes and make it more efficient. And you're so right, Cindy, about using Excel spreadsheets and stuff. That's just not the right way to do it anymore. Or people enter things manually out in the field or writing it up, and then they come back into the office, and then somebody has to type it in to put it into QuickBooks. There's just so many areas that these small businesses, we can help them to say, hey, did you know if we do it this way, it would be much faster and more efficient for you? So very good point and add on there. Another question that we had is who pays for the apps, the accountants or the client? And that's a great question, Linda. Usually the client will probably be paying for that app subscription. However, some of these apps, if you join their partner program, they provide you great discounts as a partner. So you may be paying for it and then invoicing your client for it. So it just kind of depends on the app and the situation, which you're going to do. Also, some accountants like to do the flat rate value pricing for clients, and then they integrate or include the prices of the apps in the whole fee that they're charging the client on a monthly basis. So it's kind of up to you on how you want to do that. Okay, we've got time for some additional questions, so if you have additional questions, please type them in there. We've got Diane says, Michelle, have you developed a nice little needs assessment form? You know what, Diane, I can make something pretty quickly for you. I've done some in the past, but I would probably need to do a little updating. But I'll put something together that will help you with some questions to ask the clients and things to consider in some of these different categories. So why don't you, so Tracy says she's interested in that as well. If you guys subscribe to my blog, I'll put it out there when I've got that available for you to download. Robin wants to know if you'll share it with all of us. Robin, subscribe to my blog, and I'll do a blog post, and that way I can give it to you all as well, everybody else. So very good. Thank you. Okay, great love forms. Yes, Diane, and then you guys can go through and customize it yourself, too. How do I subscribe to the blog? I'll tell you that, Janice, at the end of the webinar here. Very good. For a product like ScanWriter, how will this work with QuickBooks when scanning receipts and importing banking information? Nancy, we did a webinar with ScanWriter last week, and they went through and showed you a demo of how, particularly when you have clients that have bank statements in a PDF form, they weren't able to download it or they couldn't get the whole year or whatever, they showed you how you can scan that PDF of the bank statement and how it will import into QuickBooks where you can get hundreds of transactions entered in a few minutes. They also showed you where you can scan the bills or invoices you get from your vendors or your suppliers, and you can scan those in. You can save them all to a particular folder to where you might have 50 bills in there, and then you can go in ScanWriter and say, scan all these in, and it gets that data, and it will enter all those bills into QuickBooks for you. So it was really awesome. I would encourage you to go to my YouTube channel. I have the link for that coming up in just a minute. The recording for the ScanWriter webinar is on my YouTube channel. Very good. Robin says she's been subscribed since the beginning of time. Good, Robin. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Other questions that you might have, go ahead and type those in there because we do have some additional time. But I did want to let you know about all these webinars that we have upcoming here. We're going to talk about, with ScanWriter we did last week, and it's recorded on YouTube. Each one of these will be available on YouTube. But we're going to do a webinar with Bill.com, Concur, T-Sheets, and Avalara. Each one of these, we're going to be digging in deeper and talking about what are the benefits of that app, what are the problems does it solve, how does it help you help your clients. We'll talk about which type of clients or industry is that app right for. You'll get a demo of how that app works. They'll show you, a 15-minute demo of how the app works, the integration with QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, how it comes over. You'll also hear from a peer. You'll hear from an accountant or a bookkeeper, somebody who's implemented that app, and what their experience has been like before they had the app and now after the app with their clients and things like that, as well as we'll talk about the various partner programs and discounts that these companies or these apps offer for us as accounting programs. So I'd encourage you to register for each one of these apps. There's the link to that page, longforsuccess.com APPify. Also, I mentioned the video would be on YouTube. There's my YouTube channel. If you just search for Michelle Long CPA, because there's a lot of Michelle Longs, believe it or not. So I use Michelle Long CPA. That's how you can find me. TracySaysBill.com is extremely great. I agree. It is awesome, and we're going to be talking about that next week. Somebody says I used ScanWriter last year, but couldn't get any clients willing to pay me the monthly charge. I didn't do enough to justify the extra cost. What have you done to get the sale? So Rebecca, you don't have to charge the clients for that. With ScanWriter, you purchase it one time up front. And if you've got somebody that needs several months or a year's worth of bank statements into QuickBooks, you can get that entered in one time. And again, we talk about this in that video that we did. But after that, if you're doing things on a monthly basis, it's only $10 for that client per month. It's going to save you so much time on doing data entry that you should then stop billing your client on an hourly basis and you bill them on the value of the service that you're providing to them. Watch that YouTube video. You'll get more details about that. You'll also hear Debbie Kilsheimer shares her experience using ScanWriter and how much it's been able to save her and how she's using that with her clients. Will this presentation be available on YouTube as well? Yes, we'll get this posted up to YouTube hopefully this afternoon. Hopefully this afternoon. And you should get an email to the link in an email following up after this webinar. Okay, so has the price dropped? Yes, Rebecca, the price is now $10 per month on ScanWriter, so check in that there. Okay, anything else that people need to cover? Any other questions that you'd like to have? Cindy, is there anything else that you'd like to add as well? If you have additional questions, please go ahead and put those in there. Cindy, do you want to add anything else?
No, the only thing I wanted to add is that I know that many of the accounting professionals and clients are still on QuickBooks Desktop, and you've kind of thought that, hey, QuickBooks Online doesn't have certain function, and of course that's been improving. But there are oftentimes apps that work with QuickBooks Online that can serve the purpose. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have product-based businesses that have need for a robust inventory, they don't have to stay in QuickBooks Desktop anymore because they can use QuickBooks Online and an app like SOS Inventory, and that's basically at parity compared to a QuickBooks Desktop from an inventory standpoint. So just to consider, if you have clients who want to move to the cloud and they have very specific needs, just check out the apps to see if that solves the problem.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Is QBO combined with something like SOS Inventory and stuff, it really is very powerful. And what we're finding and what I'm seeing is more and more of these small businesses want to move to the cloud. And I think a lot of us as accountants and bookkeepers are the ones kind of holding back in that respect. And the clients are willing to pay more because they want the benefits of the cloud, the anywhere, anytime access. So yes, definitely check into that. Also, I wanted to encourage you and invite you to join me for the 3rd annual award-winning Ultimate Accounting VCon. Again, that's a 2-day virtual conference. And I've got a special code here that you can use, the APPify code when you check out. That allows you to register for just $209. You can attend a 2-day virtual conference for just over $200, and I guarantee you there's going to be something in there that's going to really help you make that money back in your practice. There you can see some of the different topics that we have for the sessions, and people who have attended in the past have definitely endorsed it, so read some of the rave reviews that are out there. I encourage you to join me for that. Then finally, here's again where you can subscribe to my blog. We have some of you asking how to subscribe to the blog. So go lawnforsuccess.com/blog. And then my YouTube channel is where you'll find a recording from this webinar as well as the other webinars that we're doing in this whole APPify series. I encourage you to register for all the other APPify webinars. Each one of them, we're going to be covering great information on those apps. So what additional questions do you all have? We still have a few minutes left if you have any questions. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint sheets from the program last week? Yes, actually I can do that for you quickly. Let me go in here to Dropbox, and here's ScanWriter. Whoops, I didn't need to do that. Dropbox is great. If you haven't started using it yet, it's a fabulous way. Whoops, it's not working. I'll have to post those out there. For some reason it got disabled. So I'll have to post those out there for you, Nancy. I'll put it on the APPify website, so the lawnforsuccess.com/APPify. There's a link to the recording, and I will put a link to the PowerPoint as well. Okay, and Rebecca says, I've gone to VCon in the past. It was well worth the money thanks for the discount. Yes, want the info from last week. Okay, I will post that on lawnforsuccess.com/APPify. Underneath ScanWriter, there's a link to the recording. Give me a little bit this afternoon, and I'll put that link there. Lawnforsuccess.com. Let me just go back to it so you can see it. There it is, lawnforsuccess.com/APPify. APPify. And you can find that there. Very good. Does T-Sheets work with QBO payroll? Yes, T-Sheets works with QBO. T-Sheets is awesome. We've got a webinar coming up with them as well. They also have a special promotion going on for accountants who are recommending and setting up T-Sheets with clients. You guys can win some cold hard cash. They're giving away like $5,000, $3,000, and $2,000. So you might check that out for T-Sheets. Rebecca says, do any of these work for certified payroll? That's a really good question, Rebecca. I am not positive. I'd encourage you to reach out to T-Sheets, or I will find out that answer before the T-Sheets webinar. So we would have that answer for you. Okay, other questions that you guys might have? Any other questions that we have for me or for Cindy, or anything else you want me to show you? Okay, well, we actually got done a couple of minutes early. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me for this webinar. I hope to see you on some of the upcoming APPify webinar series. And again, I will post this. You should get a link to the recording on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss this one or any of the other ones as well. When will my new book be available? Rebecca, the latest one, the QuickBooks 2014 On Demand, is now available on Amazon, so you can get that there. Somebody today will win either the QuickBooks Practice Set or the QuickBooks Online Practice Set, so watch your email. Somebody will win QuickBooks Accountants, so I'll be drawing for those randomly from the people who attended, and watch for your email to see if you were a winner on that. All right, thank you again. Mike says, very helpful webinar. Thank you for letting us know about how these resources will add to our business. Yeah, you're exactly right, Mike. This is another opportunity for us to add value-added services for our clients and help them with their business. Like I said, it's a win-win. Help the clients improve their business and help us grow our business as well. So thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. If there's any last questions, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So thank you again for attending.